The day my stepfamily sold my cat, I learned that blood isn't the only thing that can run cold. I'm Marcus, and this is the story of how my cat Mist exposed the truth about family, greed, and justice. Mist wasn't supposed to be special. I found her 3 years ago, a tiny gray kitten huddled in the rain behind the veterinary clinic where I worked as a technician. She was barely alive, her fur matted and dirty, but something about her caught my eye. Maybe it was the unusual silver-blue tint to her coat or the way her eyes shifted between green and blue depending on the light. Dr. Harrison, my boss, examined her carefully. Interesting coloring, she mused, running expert hands over the kitten's tiny frame. Almost like a Russian blue, but the face shape, here, look at these markings. I didn't know much about cat breeds then. To me, she was just a beautiful kitten who needed help. I took her home, nursed her back to health, and named her Mist because of her ethereal coloring. My dad had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving me with a stepmother, Karen, and her 2 daughters, Emma and Sophie. They tolerated my presence in the house mainly because Dad's was specified I could live there until I finished veterinary school. They barely noticed Mist at first, treating her like any other stray cat. But Mist grew into something extraordinary. Her coat developed a lustrous sheen that shimmered in certain lights. Her face took on an elegant, almost regal expression. Clients at the clinic often asked if she was a purebred, and Dr. Harrison kept giving me thoughtful looks. "Marcus," she said one day, "have you ever considered showing Mist?" I laughed. "She's a rescue cat. Doc, street cats don't win shows." "Maybe," she replied, "but I have a friend who judges cat shows. Would you mind if I sent her some photos?" I agreed, mostly to humor her. 2 days later, Dr. Harrison called me into her office, practically vibrating with excitement. "My friend thinks Mist might be something special," she said, pulling up some emails. "She believes Mist could be related to Azure Dream." The name meant nothing to me then. Dr. Harrison explained that Azure Dream was a legendary Russian blue, a Grand Champion who had disappeared from the show circuit 3 years ago. There had been rumors about a secret litter before she vanished, but nothing was ever proven. The timing would match, Dr. Harrison said, and the physical characteristics, we should do a DNA test. The test wasn't cheap, but Dr. Harrison offered to split the cost with me. We sent off the samples and waited. During those weeks, I started learning about cat shows. Dr. Harrison introduced me to her friend, Judge Marina, who began teaching me how to groom and present Mist. The cat took to it naturally, as if she'd been born for the spotlight. My stepfamily found it hilarious. "Playing dress up with your street cat," Emma would sneer. Sophie was worse, deliberately leaving doors open so Mist might escape, though my clever girl never fell for it. Karen watched it all with calculating eyes. "You're wasting time and money," she said. "Focus on your studies. That cat is just a distraction." I ignored them, continuing Mist's training. She learned to walk on a leash, to stand for examination, to show off her best angles. Judge Marina became increasingly excited about her potential. "There's something special about this cat," she'd say, watching Mist glide across the room. "She has presence, elegance. She knows she's royalty." The DNA test results arrived on a Tuesday. I was at the clinic when Dr. Harrison called me into her office, her face serious. "You should sit down," she said, handing me the envelope. My hands shook as I read the results. Mist wasn't just related to Azure Dream, she was her daughter. My rescue kitten was the direct descendant of one of the most valuable show cats in recent history. "This changes everything," Dr. Harrison said quietly. "Mist could be worth." "How much?" I whispered. "With her lineage, her coloring, and proper show training, easily $25,000, maybe more if she wins titles." I sat there stunned. My street cat was worth more than my car. Dr. Harrison and I agreed to keep the information quiet until we could properly document everything and begin show preparations. But I made a crucial mistake. I left the test results in my room. That Friday, I had a late shift at the clinic. When I got home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. No soft meow greeted me. No gentle paw taps on my leg. "Mist?" I called out, my heart already sinking. Karen appeared in the living room doorway, a strange smile on her face. "Oh, good you're home. We need to talk." Emma and Sophie sat on the couch, both wearing identical smirks. On the coffee table lay the DNA test results. Imagine our surprise. Karen said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. When we discovered what you've been hiding from us. Where's Mist? My voice was barely controlled. We did you a favor, Sophie chimed in. You're too busy with school to deal with show cats. Where is she? Emma laughed. Sold her this afternoon. Some breeder paid $500 cash. Pretty good for a street cat, right? The world tilted. You had no right, I whispered. She's my cat. I found her. I raised her. In my house, Karen cut in, using money that should have gone to your education. Really, Marcus, did you think you could keep something this valuable and not share with the family? Share? I laughed, a harsh sound. You mean steal. You stole my cat and sold her for a fraction of her worth. Don't be dramatic, Karen sighed. It's done. The breeder has her papers, signed and everything. Time to focus on what's important. Papers? What papers? Emma waved a folder. Found them with the DNA test. Just needed a little modification. My blood ran cold. They had forged documents to sell my cat. I pulled out my phone. What are you doing? Karen demanded. Calling the police. Sophie jumped up. You can't prove anything. We lived with that cat too. It's our word against yours. I smiled then, and they must have seen something in my expression because they all took a step back. Actually, I said slowly, I can prove everything. I turned to Karen. Did you really think Dr. Harrison and I wouldn't document everything? That we wouldn't take precautions? Her face paled slightly. You're bluffing. I dialed Dr. Harrison's number, putting it on speaker. She answered immediately. Marcus, is everything okay? They sold Mist, I said clearly. Used forged papers. What? Her voice sharpened. The microchip? Microchip. Karen's voice cracked. Of course, Dr. Harrison replied. All show cats require registered microchips. We did Mist weeks ago, with full documentation of her lineage and ownership. Any legitimate breeder would have checked. Emma and Sophie were looking at Karen now, their smug expressions replaced with worry. I'm calling the police, Dr. Harrison continued. The breeder's name. Karen thrust a business card at me, her hands shaking. We didn't know about the microchip, she said quickly. It was just a joke. We can get her back. But I was already reading the breeder's information to Dr. Harrison, who promised to handle everything. Within an hour, the police were taking statements, and the breeder, who turned out to be more legitimate than my stiff family had thought, was horrified to learn she'd unknowingly purchased a stolen show cat. Mist was back in my arms before midnight, purring as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. The police took the forged papers as evidence. Karen, Emma, and Sophie tried to backtrack, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was clear. They had stolen and sold property worth thousands of dollars using forged documents. As I packed my things that night, Mist supervising from her carrier, Karen made one last attempt. Marcus, please, she begged. We can work this out as a family. Don't do anything rash. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw what my father never had, a woman who saw people only as things to be used. We were never family, I said quietly, but thanks for making that perfectly clear. Dr. Harrison had offered me her guest room until I could find a place of my own. As I loaded my car, Emma and Sophie watched from the window, their faces pale with the realization that their actions had consequences. You'll regret this, Karen called after me. Where will you live? How will you finish school? I placed Mist's carrier carefully in the passenger seat. I'll manage, and don't worry, you'll be hearing from my lawyer about the theft and fraud charges. As I drove away, I could see them in my rearview mirror, huddled on the porch like actors who'd forgotten their lines. But I felt only relief. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what you really have. I had Mist, my education, and people like Dr. Harrison who understood that family isn't about blood or legal documents, it's about who stands by you when it matters. And tomorrow, at the cat show, everyone would learn exactly what my street cat was worth. The police investigation was just the beginning. The real show was yet to come, and Mist and I were ready to take center stage. My phone buzzed with a text from Judge Marina. Everything ready for tomorrow. Time to show them what real class looks like. I smiled, reaching over to scratch Mist's ears through the carrier. Ready to shock some people, girl? Her answering meow sounded almost like laughter. The morning of the cat show dawned bright and clear. Miss sat regally in her grooming station, her silver blue coat gleaming under the lights as I carefully brushed her. Around us, other contestants prepared their cats, some throwing curious glances our way. News of the theft and recovery had spread through the cat show community like wildfire. Judge Marina approached with a knowing smile. "The press is here," she murmured. "And guess who else just arrived?" I didn't need to look. I could feel Karen's presence along with Emma and Sophie hovering near the entrance. They weren't supposed to be here. The restraining order was clear. But I had expected this. Planned for it, even. "Perfect timing," I replied, giving Miss a final brush. Her coat shimmered like moonlight on water. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "Welcome to the 43rd Annual Royal Feline Championship. Our first category, Russian Blue and related breeds." As I prepared to take Miss to the showing area, a familiar figure approached. The breeder who had unknowingly purchased her 2 days ago. Miss Peterson looked mortified. "I just wanted to apologize again," she said quietly. "In 20 years of breeding, I've never been so embarrassed. If I had checked the microchip first." "It's not your fault," I assured her. They were convincing liars. She nodded toward the entrance, where my stepfamily stood. "They're not giving up, are they?" "No," I smiled. "But that's exactly what I'm counting on." The first round of judging began. Miss performed perfectly, her movements graceful and precise, just as we practiced. The judges' whispers grew excited as they examined her. One of them, an elderly gentleman with decades of experience, actually gasped when he checked her markings. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice rang out, "we have something extraordinary here. This remarkable Russian Blue shows striking similarities to the legendary Azure Dream. Could this be?" I saw Karen pushing through the crowd, her face a mask of calculated concern. Right on cue. "That's our cat," she called out, her voice carrying across the hall. "This boy stole her from us." The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. Exactly as planned. Judge Marina stepped forward, microphone in hand. "Actually, we've been waiting for someone to make that claim. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present evidence that will interest not only this court but the criminal one as well." A large screen behind the judging area flickered to life. On it appeared security footage from my stepfamily's house. Footage they didn't know existed. Dr. Harrison had helped me install hidden cameras after the DNA test came back. The video showed Karen, Emma, and Sophie in the living room, counting money and laughing as they forged the ownership papers. Their voices were crystal clear. "Can you believe he didn't know what he had?" Emma's voice rang out. "Mom's right, we should have sold her months ago," Sophie added. "Just make sure those papers look legitimate," Karen instructed. "Once she's sold, he can't prove anything." The footage continued, showing them discussing how they found the DNA test results and planned the theft for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. The audience watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. I glanced at my stepfamily. Karen's face had gone white. Emma and Sophie were backing away, but security guards had already moved to block the exits. Judge Marina wasn't finished. "We also have documentation of the cat's true lineage," she announced, bringing up the DNA test results. "This cat, registered as Morning Mist, is indeed the daughter of Grand Champion Azure Dream. Her microchip registration and original rescue documentation prove she has belonged to Marcus Wilson since she was found 3 years ago." The crowd erupted in whispers. Azure Dream's lost daughter, found as a rescue cat? It was the kind of story cat fancier circles would talk about for years. A police officer approached Karen and her daughters. They had violated the restraining order, and now there was video evidence of their premeditated theft. Their faces showed the dawning realization that they had walked right into a trap. "One more thing," Judge Marina added, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "The original Azure Dream disappeared under mysterious circumstances 3 years ago. The security footage we just watched includes some very interesting comments about that situation as well. The police may want to review the full tapes." Karen's face went from white to gray. That had been her mistake, getting too confident, talking too much about things she should have kept quiet. The rest of the show passed in a blur of activity. Miss won her category, naturally. The judges were beside themselves, examining her from every angle, comparing her to old photos of Azure Dream. The resemblance was undeniable. As we accepted the ribbon, cameras flashing from every direction, I heard Miss Peterson's voice behind me. "I'm prepared to offer $25,000 for breeding rights, Mr. Wilson. After what happened, I want to do this properly." I turned to her, stroking Mist's head. "I appreciate the offer, but Mist isn't for sale. At any price." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Some things are worth more than money. Looking across the hall, I watched as the police escorted my stepfamily out. Karen looked back once, her face a mixture of rage and disbelief. She had underestimated both me and Mist, and that mistake would cost her everything. Dr. Harrison appeared at my side, beaming with pride, ready to go home. I looked down at Mist, who was soaking up the attention like the champion she was. "Yeah," I smiled. "We're ready." Home wasn't the house where I'd grown up anymore. It was a small apartment above the veterinary clinic, paid for with my salary and scholarship money. But it was ours, and no one could take it, or Mist, away from us again. As I packed up our showing supplies, Judge Marina handed me an envelope. "The DNA registry wants to do a feature on Mist. They're also very interested in what happened to Azure Dream. Your stepmother's facing some serious questions about that." I took the envelope, knowing this story was far from over. But for now, Mist and I had won something more valuable than any show ribbon. We'd won our freedom. And that was worth more than all the champion cats in the world. 6 months after the cat show, Mist and I sat in our apartment watching the evening news. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. "Local woman sentenced in designer cat theft ring." Karen's mugshot filled the screen, followed by photos of Azure Dream and other missing show cats. The investigation that started with our security footage had uncovered something much bigger. Karen hadn't just tried to steal and sell Mist. She had been involved in a sophisticated operation targeting valuable show cats for years. Azure Dream hadn't simply disappeared. She'd been stolen, bred, and sold on the black market. Mist wasn't her only kitten. There were others out there, all sold to unsuspecting buyers. The evidence from our case had blown the whole thing wide open. Emma and Sophie had turned on their mother, accepting plea deals in exchange for testimony. They received probation and community service at local animal shelters. Karen wasn't so lucky. She was looking at 5 years in prison. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Harrison. "Have you seen the news? There's more. Come to the clinic." Miss rode on my shoulder as I headed downstairs. She'd become something of a celebrity in the neighborhood, and people often stopped to take her picture. The street cat turned show champion story had captured everyone's imagination. Dr. Harrison was in her office with Judge Marina and a woman I didn't recognize. She was holding a carrier, and inside. "Is that—" I couldn't finish the sentence. Judge Marina nodded. "Azure Dream herself. She was found in a raid last week, along with documentation of all her stolen kittens. The legendary cat was older now, but her coat still held that distinctive silver-blue sheen. When we opened the carrier, she stepped out gracefully. Mist jumped down from my shoulder, and mother and daughter faced each other for the first time in 3 years. The reunion was everything you'd expect from 2 aristocratic cats. A delicate sniff, a gentle head bump, and then they both sat down and began grooming as if they'd never been separated. "There's something else," the unknown woman said, introducing herself as a representative from the International Cat Registry. "With Azure Dream recovered and the theft ring exposed, there's been huge interest in her bloodline. We'd like to establish a proper breeding program with both Azure Dream and Morning Mist." I looked at my cat, now curled up beside her mother. "I'm not selling Mist." "We're not asking you to," she smiled. "We want you to run the program. Your work exposing the theft ring, plus your veterinary studies and show experience. You're perfect for this. Dr. Harrison has offered to partner with you." It was a dream opportunity, combining my love for cats with my veterinary career, working with the very cats I'd helped save. But there was one loose end to tie up first. "What about the house?" I asked Dr. Harrison. "Dad's will." "The court ruled that Karen forfeited any claim to the property through her criminal actions," Judge Marina interjected. "As your father's only heir, it reverts to you." I sat down, overwhelmed. In 6 months, I had gone from nearly losing everything to gaining more than I had ever imagined. The next week, I stood in front of my childhood home, keys in hand. The place had been empty since Karen's arrest. Inside, everything was covered in dust, but memories lingered in every corner, both good and bad. Miss explored each room like she was conducting an inspection, Azure Dream following regally behind her. The two cats had become inseparable, to everyone's delight. I found myself in my old room, where the DNA test results had been discovered. On the desk lay one of Emma's old notebooks, open to a page of practice signatures. She had been planning the forgery for weeks. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. I know you probably hate us, but I'm truly sorry. Working at the shelter has taught me a lot. Those cats. They're not just property. I get that now. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete the message either. Some lessons come too late, but at least they come. The house would need work before it could become a proper cattery. The backyard would be perfect for secure outdoor enclosures. The spare rooms could be converted into breeding and showing spaces. Dr. Harrison was already drawing up plans. Azure Dream and Mist supervised all the renovations from their favorite window perch. Sometimes, watching them together, I thought about family, how it could be forced on you by blood or law, or chosen through love and trust. A year after the cat show, we hosted our first official event at the newly established Azure Dreams cattery. The press turned out in force. Everyone wanted to see the recovered champion and her daughter, to hear the story of how a rescue kitten had exposed a theft ring and brought down a criminal enterprise. Emma and Sophie came too, standing awkwardly at the back of the crowd. They looked different, humbler, maybe even wiser. They didn't try to approach me, but they spent a long time watching the cats, especially Mist and Azure Dream. Judge Marina gave a speech about second chances for cats and people. She talked about how a street kitten had found her way home to her champion mother, how justice sometimes takes unexpected paths. As I watched Mist preside over her domain, every inch her mother's daughter, I thought about how close I'd come to losing her. How my stepfamily's greed had nearly stolen something precious, not just from me, but from the entire cat fancy world. But sometimes, the worst actions bring about the best outcomes. The theft ring was destroyed. Azure Dream was home. Mist had found her mother, and I had found my true calling. That evening after everyone had left, I sat in the garden with both cats. Azure Dream was teaching Mist to hunt moths, both of them moving with the fluid grace that had made them champions. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Karen's prison email account. You think you've won, but those cats should have been mine. All of them. Remember that. I deleted the message without responding. Some people never learn, but their bitterness doesn't have to touch you. Mist jumped into my lap, followed by Azure Dream. Two pairs of green-blue eyes looked up at me, filled with trust and affection. This was my family now, not perfect, not traditional, but real, and worth every battle it took to protect it. 3 years after the cat show scandal, Azure Dreams Cattery had become the most prestigious Russian blue breeding program in the country. What started with 2 cats, a rescued daughter, and her recovered mother, had grown into something extraordinary. The day Karen was released from prison, I received a certified letter from her lawyer. She was demanding visitation rights to the cats, claiming she had contributed to their value through her previous care. The letter went straight into the shredder. Instead of dwelling on it, I focused on our latest achievement, Mist's first litter of kittens, 3 perfect silver-blue babies already showing their mother's regal bearing and their grandmother's distinctive features. Azure Dream had appointed herself chief kitten minder, teaching her grandchildren the same grace that had made her a champion. Emma and Sophie had completed their probation and surprisingly stayed involved in animal welfare. Emma worked at a cat cafe, helping place rescued cats in forever homes. Sophie had gone back to school, studying to become a veterinary technician. They sent holiday cards with pictures of their shelter work, but never asked to visit. Some bridges, once burned, stay ashes. Dr. Harrison had officially made me a partner in both the clinic and the cattery. You've earned this, she said, watching Miss supervise her kitten's first showing lesson. Not just through hard work, but through integrity. The security system I'd installed to catch my stepfamily had been adapted into a standard protocol for high-end catteries nationwide. The Azure Protocol, they called it, though I prefer to think of it as the Mist system, turning something meant for harm into protection for others. Judge Marina still came by regularly, usually bearing toys for the kittens and stories from the show circuit. You know what they're calling this place? She asked one evening. The house that Karma built. Fitting, isn't it? It was fitting. The house my step-family had tried to take from me had become a sanctuary for the very creatures they tried to exploit. Every room that had once held bitter memories now echoed with purrs and playful meows. Azure Dream's recovery had led to the identification of 12 other stolen show cats. All eventually returned to their rightful owners. Many of them visited our cattery, their owners grateful for the exposure of the theft ring. What Karen had intended as a quick profit scheme had instead created a community of cat lovers dedicated to protecting their beloved pets. The final irony came when one of Mist's kittens won Best in Show at the same competition where we'd exposed Karen's crimes. The trophy now sat in the front window, catching the light like Mist's silver-blue coat, a reminder that justice sometimes comes with whiskers and a purr. One morning, I found a small package on the doorstep. Inside was a worn photo of Azure Dream as a kitten, along with a note from Karen's former accomplice in the theft ring. "I'm sorry for what we did. She deserved better." They all did. I framed the photo and hung it in our showing room beside Mist's first championship ribbon. The past and present, linked by silver blue fur and second chances. Mist and Azure Dream shared my office window seat, watching their descendants play in the custom-built enclosure below. Sometimes, when the light hit them just right, they looked like the same cat at different ages, a reminder that some things, like grace and dignity, run deeper than blood. My phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Harrison. Karen was asking about the cattery at the cafe downtown. "Thought you should know." I looked at my cats, at the life we built from betrayal and redemption. "Let her ask," I typed back. "We're not hiding anymore." Because that was the greatest victory, not just surviving what they tried to do, but thriving beyond their imagination. Every purr, every championship ribbon, every successful adoption was proof that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. Azure Dream stretched lazily in the sunlight while Mist gently corrected one of her kittens' showing poses. Champions raising champions, turning a house of bitter memories into a home of second chances. Some people collect cats. Others collect trophies or money or power. But the most valuable collection, I've learned, was the family you build from the pieces others throw away. And ours was absolutely priceless.